Welcome back. In this video, I will be teaching you how to fight off existential dread. So you might be asking, what is existential dread, or what is existentialism? Let me put it simply from Google's definition. Existentialism, a philosophical theory or approach which emphasizes the existence of the individual person as a free and responsible agent determining their own development through acts of the will. But this is honestly just a bare bones definition and doesn't encapsulate the meaning of existentialism in our main topic, existential dread. Here's an example from my friend, Mr. Cow.
Grass everywhere. So much grass. I can eat wherever, in any direction infinitely. But where do I go for? Do I eat as much as I want? Do I walk in a straight line forever? This is too much. It's too much. I don't know what to choose.
The cow was in the midst of a panic, mostly due to his inability to function when confronted with the infinite possibility of eating grass in any direction he chose to travel in. However, it's not limited to the amount of choices that a person may have, or in the case of the cow I just showed you, but rather existential dread can affect all of us when our lives are going through a transitional stage or when we are searching for the meaning of life through the big why questions of life. For instance, you may feel discomfort and anxiety facing the big why questions of life, especially in situations like a career change, traumatic experiences, a death, feelings of uselessness and depression. Disclaimer, please talk to a professional if you are having these kinds of thoughts. Now that we are on the same page, let's talk about existentialism, and especially existential dread. A huge way to get existential dread easily is if you think about death. FYI, if you die in real life, you die in Minecraft too. Just wanted to clear that confusion up if you had any. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Another way to get existential dread is when you feel isolated, like during the COVID pandemic, and that's where you begin to overthink too much and think things like, does anything I do matter? You tend to also cut off relationships and stop hanging out with others, cutting yourself off from interactions, and you can ultimately begin to think that nothing ultimately matters because everything is pointless. While you may feel that, you aren't alone in these thoughts. So how can we even stop this nihilistic attitude towards the inclination towards a spiral of existential dread? From my experience, you can't. Thanks for watching. No, the feeling can always creep back into your thoughts, especially if you think it continually, a lot like me. But the important thing is to keep life in perspective. The reason I chose Minecraft for some of the explanations and B-roll for this video is because I believe Minecraft is a good explanation, or an example rather, of existentialism. You have an endless world with endless resources and with endless possibilities, and while the overwhelming nature of the endless possibilities of the video game isn't compared to some of the harmful thoughts about yourself and life in your head, I believe it's a great parallel. For instance, I love playing Minecraft, but sometimes I get overwhelmed by the endless possibilities and decide to quit for months at a time because I just simply sometimes don't see the point at times. Sure, there's the Nether, defeating the Ender Dragon and all, but once you've done everything in Minecraft especially, you can easily get bored because of the tireless, endless possibilities in your Minecraft world, just like the cow at the beginning of this video. The cow trying to decide what it really wanted to actually do. Although this is just a game, it is hard to put away existential thoughts in real life, as we can't just temporarily quit life for months at a time. Sure, it would be nice, but it isn't practical and it isn't possible. Not advisable. One of the main reasons I wanted to make this video was because of this very topic. And yes, I wanted to start making YouTube content again, but I wanted to begin in a concept like this, because these existential thoughts are the same exact thoughts that kept me from making videos in the first place. I had no excuse for not making the content I wanted to make. No excuse except for the unending existential thoughts inside my own head. Thoughts like, why should I make videos? No one's going to watch anyway. And my ideas are just stupid. Prevented me from ultimately just doing the simple thing that I wanted to do. But since my most recent uploads, years later, I've realized a couple things. Taking time away from the thing you love is okay. Like, just because you love it doesn't mean you need to do it all the time. You aren't a bad person. You're simply overthinking everything. Your emotions are valid, but you must consider the simple truth. Feelings and the way you feel now will ultimately pass eventually. For instance, I didn't want to play Minecraft for months at a time, but suddenly there's a boost of motivation out of nowhere to finally log on and see my friend's Minecraft mansion he's texted me about for weeks on end. Sorry, Daniel. But feelings lie. And they are one of the main reasons why we dislike ourselves, because we don't look at the truth of our situation. Instead, we look at the feelings we feel about our situation. Another thing to remember is that existentialism is not necessarily a bad thing to have from time to time, as it can put things in perspective in comparison to the vastness of the universe, down to the very love you share with someone you're close to. But always remember that existential dread is a trap, and you don't need to stay there. You can try to glorify the idea and try to make it look interesting, quote unquote, but ultimately it only drags you down. And it not only affects you, but it affects the people around you. So this isn't a video about trying Minecraft again, but rather putting your life in perspective and understanding that sure, you may have weaknesses and pitfalls and may have made mistakes, but life is simply the awareness of ourselves experiencing the universe. So why not be aware of the thoughts that nag at us and live a happier, more complete life? Being aware is not about diminishing our personhood down to a speck of dust within the vastness of the universe, but rather our ability to be aware means to have the responsibility to know that while we may not be perfect, we are instead graced to understand the simple act of self-love, knowing that the purpose of life is not understanding every single detail, but to rest assured in the fact that we are brought about in this universe to seemingly declare the beauty of life and love through our actions to the ones around us. Our conscious awareness is not a tragedy, but rather an ongoing seeking of what is true, this truth ultimately leading us to the understanding of ourselves and the others that are placed around us, and ultimately the divine. I really believe that you can begin to question these vast why questions. Question them until they can't defend themselves. Question why you're even asking these questions, and remind yourself, whether through the simple love of doing something, talking to someone, or keeping yourself busy, that you're not made to question how small and insignificant you are, but to realize your destiny through the vastness of opportunity.